Ivan Eland, he's a senior fellow and director of the Centre on Peace and Liberty at the Independent Institute in Washington, D.C. Ivan, thanks very much indeed for your company. Plenty of time to digest last night's debate. But if we just go back to that opening 15 minutes when Joe Biden seemed so unsure of himself, how damaging do you think that's going to be to his presidency?
Well, yes, you're right. He got better as the debate went on, but I think he was very halting. And, he seemed a little bit out of it at the beginning. And I think if you had a college debate, you'd have to say Joe Biden won on the points because he was more factual and that sort of thing. But that's not how U.S. presidential debates are scored. It's the voters vote mainly on, how they came forward, and Trump really looked like he was in command of the facts, even though he lied a lot, and some of the questions he didn't answer. But I think this was bad for Biden, and a lot of Democrats are now talking about replacing him. I think that's going to be harder than it seems.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment, but just on those falsehoods from Donald Trump and some of those outlandish claims, had Biden been sharper, younger perhaps, would he not have taken better advantage of some of those falsehoods?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if younger, but a sharper is definitely, because some older people are fine and some are not. And in this particular case, Biden didn't really reply. He could have taken a lot of advantage of Trump's lying and, just not answering the questions. But he didn't, because I think he claims he has a cold or a sore throat or whatever, but he just didn't. He just wasn't on for this debate.
We saw John Brain, our correspondent, in the spin room where Democrats were desperately trying to persuade journalists that their candidate had won. But it does appear that they're in damage control mode now, the Democrats. As you mentioned, there has been plenty of speculation that perhaps Joe Biden should step down. But how would that even work?
Well, I mean, if he could voluntarily step down, of course, that would be the best for the Democrats, because then they would be able to, because he's got all these delegates that he won in all the primaries. So he has enough delegates for the nomination by far. But the question is, if you had a convention fight by putting someone else up, that would be disastrous probably for the Democrats. So I think they've got to convince him to step aside. And I think that's going to be very difficult because he's very ambitious. He's always been a very ambitious man. And he really genuinely thinks he's the only person that can beat Trump.
Yeah, and well, that remains to be seen as to what happens with the Democrats. These TV debates are supposed to be there to try to influence floating voters, people who are not sure which way they're going to go. But I mean, are there even any floating voters left in the United States? Because surely you either know which way you feel about Donald Trump, one way or the other. And even if you are concerned about Joe Biden as a Democrat, the alternative is surely unthinkable.
Yes, I don't think they're probably going to be able to substitute for Joe Biden. So I think, for good or bad, we're stuck with two candidates that we have. And I think most people have made up their minds. But there is this tiny sliver that could go either way. And it's very close. The polls don't mean much now because you have to wait till after September before the polls get going. But I don't think this debate really helped them. I guess the good news for the Democrats is they've got a longer time for people to forget this debate. Because it was an early debate. It's one of the earliest debates they've ever had before a presidential campaign.
Yes, and it was an earliest because Joe Biden requested it to be so.
Yes,
so perhaps
right.
He will have time to recover from it. Ivan, thanks very much indeed for your time. Appreciate you coming on the NewsHour.
Thank you.